Hello, it's Daniel and welcome to this trip report. In this trip report, I'm flying with Irish Airlines CityJet from Dublin in Ireland to London City in England. I took this flight during my Around the British Isles day trip in summer 2019. I arrived into Dublin a few hours earlier on a Hainan Airlines Boeing 787 from Edinburgh. CityJet actually operated this flight on behalf of Aer Lingus, which is why I'm in Terminal 2 first. Terminal 2 is Aer Lingus' home essentially. Security in Terminal 2 was busy, as it was midday when most long-haul flights tend to depart Dublin. It took nearly half an hour to get through security, and I had to rush a little to the gate. The gate was in Terminal 1, and I had to use the one-way system to get there, which links the two terminals. The aircraft that would be taking me to London City was a classic Avro RJ85, the last built British commercial airliner. Since CityJet operate the flight on behalf of Aer Lingus, the Avro was in Aer Lingus' brand new livery. Personally, I think the new livery only suits the Avro. My seat for the flight was seat 2A and the flight time to London City was 1 hour and 15 minutes. Now for the taxi out and takeoff part of the video. Since it was the peak time of day for departures, it took over half an hour to depart Dublin. The legroom was great and the seats were comfortable, however they were a little narrow. Now I'm a skinny person and even for me they were quite narrow. The seat pocket contained Aer Lingus' buy on board menu, an in-flight magazine, a safety card and a sick bag. If you weren't a nav geek and didn't know the flight was operated by CityJet, the safety card and the interior were your only hints. The cabin was definitely showing its age a little. A little look at the buy on board menu, which had an alright selection, and also the prices seemed pretty fair and reasonable. One cool feature in the Avro cabin was these half and half window shades. To pass the time, I listened to a music mix on SoundCloud. As per usual, I obviously couldn't resist stuffing my face with food, so I had to buy something. I bought some shortbread and a can of Coke Zero. It cost me €4.70, or around £4 depending on your currency. The shortbread was nice and overall was a good little snack. On the day of this around the British Isles day trip, it was actually one of the warmest days of the year. In London it was a toasty 35 degrees Celsius. As it was one of the warmest days of the year, the skies were completely clear and the views throughout the entire flight were stunning. The reason the seats were quite narrow is because the cabin is in a free configuration. CityJet's Avros have 95 seats on board, so this flight was nearly full with 81 passengers on board. Passing over a busy London Heathrow whilst cruising at 27,000 feet. Just a few weeks ago, at the start of November 2020, CityJet retired their remaining Avro RJ85s. CityJet were also the last big Avro operator in Europe, after Braffin's Regional retired theirs in March 2020. I was actually on one of the last Braffin's Regional RJ100 flights. The trip report for that will be out soon. The RJ100 is the largest version of the Avro, the RJ85 is the middle one, and finally the RJ70 being the smallest. The RJ70 is primarily used by various rich people as a private jet. The Avro family is actually the second generation of the BAE 146, which was developed in the late 70s and early 80s for airports like London City. The Avro RJ85 is the re-engined version of the BAE 146. Both families proved very popular both in Europe and in the US markets for regional flights into smaller regional airports, either with shorter runways or steep approaches just like London City. Both the BAE 146 and the later Avro are both very unique planes. They are so small yet they have 4 engines. They have been nicknamed the Jumbo Liner and the Mini Jumbo by many airlines. Now for the landing clip into London City, with a stunning approach over central London. Overall, the flight from Dublin to London City on the Avro RJ85 was good. The seats were comfortable, even though they were a tad narrow, the cabin crew were friendly, the buy on board menu was alright, and the shortbread I had was nice. The main highlights of this flight though was flying on the classic Avro RJ85 into London City, and that for the entire flight the skies were clear. The approach over central London was stunning. All in all, it definitely made for a memorable flight experience. Landing into London City is something I've also been trying to tick off for years, and I'm glad I've managed to finally do it. It's a shame the Avro has been retired from CityJet's fleet. At its peak they had 27 RJ85s. Sadly nothing like it will ever be built again. A handful of CityJet's Avros have actually got a new lease of life, with 7 recently been flown to America for conversion into water bombers. The water bombers will be used to fight forest fires, which have become a lot more common in recent years. This was also my first flight with CityJet, and I would definitely fly with them again, even though it was on behalf of Aer Lingus. Sadly however, their fate is currently unknown due to their recent merger with Spanish regional airline Air Nostrum and the coronavirus pandemic. Thanks for watching this trip report. I hope you have enjoyed it, and stay tuned for the next one.